Joanna Bell's here, political journalist. Joanna, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How are you today?
I'm all right, but I need answers, right? Because this government, once again, they've been told so many times that this is not the way to proceed, that the police need to give information out. They've arrested this 21-year-old who lived somewhere in southeast London, but they've not given any details out about him, which leads people to be suspicious that there's a reason for that.
Look, you know, they obviously don't want another Southport riot event to take place. And, you know, this actually might inspire more riots. However, I don't think people are going to do that in London. But it's absolutely disgraceful. Have they not learned their lessons from the last time? Why won't they give people the information on who it is?
Yeah,
you know,
it's very straightforward, isn't it? I mean, normally speaking, if they don't give the name of a suspect out, they give out, you know, where they're from, what their address is, and all that. All they've told us is that he's from Sydenham in southeast London. But my suspicion is that because they won't give out any information, he'll probably turn out to be somebody from somewhere else.
Well, of course, Mike, and you know, there's obviously a reason they're not giving out the information. And like one of your listeners said, if it was a British person, you'd know their name. They'd have their picture splayed everywhere. Yeah. And this is the problem in this country. You know, there's no transparency, and things need to change. You know, it's funny because, you know, as I was reading about the attack on Sir Keir's home, that it just came, you know, a day after a group of 6 Bulgarians received lengthy jail sentences for being part of a spying operation on behalf of Moscow.
Yes.
So it could be something to do with that. Nobody knows,
But don't you think that as well, that MPs and people, say, in the public eye, deserve to be treated better as well? I mean, basically, the terror police have said to MPs, you know, let us know if you see anything suspicious. Well, what do they mean by that? Do they mean that this is part of a concerted effort by, you know, foreign hostile states to do harm to politicians in this country? I don't know.
Well, and they should all be very, very scared. You know, they said, oh, you know, MPs need to be extra vigilant. And it's like, how do you become vigilant? You know, this guy went to his old house. He targeted his old car. It's obvious that this was an act of intimidation.
Yes.
I don't think that, I mean, if they wanted to do harm, they would have done harm. But I don't think there was an intention to actually hurt anyone.
Yeah.
This seems like an act of aggression and a warning to Keir. And it could be because of his stance now on asylum seekers.
Well, it could well be. That's the point, isn't it? Commander Dominic Murphy, who is in charge of the investigation in Scotland Yard, says this: "We are working at pace and continue to explore various lines of inquiry to establish the cause of the fires and any potential motivation for these. A key line of inquiry is whether the fires are linked due to the 2 premises and the vehicle all having previous links to the same high-profile public figure." But he's not exactly Inspector Clouseau, this guy, is he? Well, I think there's pretty good chance that the events are actually linked, given that the fire in the car was outside the same fire in the house. I mean, for heaven's sake. And he then says, we recognise that this investigation may cause concern to other public figures, particularly MPs. I mean, you know, so we need to know more, don't we?
Of course. Look what happened to, you know, Sir John Ames and Joe Cox. You know, there is a clear and present danger to these MPs.
Yeah.
And, you know, they need to create more transparency. It's disgraceful that, you know, that they're, you know, basically being left bare out on the streets with no protection.
Yeah, exactly right.
And how did he find out his old car? How did he get that information?
Yeah. I mean,
isn't that quite scary?
I know the only clue seems to be, but it would have taken some research to do this, and you know, I'm not sure whether this 21-year-old did it or somebody else did it for him. But the car was sort of recorded, if you like, because at one point there was Keir Starmer ran into a cyclist, believe it or not. You know, the careful Keir, he ran over a cyclist in Islington who was fine, but he was then accused of leaving the scene of the accident because there was some misunderstanding. And so I think somebody pictured the car, so he was obviously able to find that somewhere on the internet. The house you could easily find because he stood outside it clapping for the NHS during COVID, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that was easily to find. But the other house was a flat that he apparently lived in with a previous girlfriend. So that's a long time ago that somebody's found that out, and that's in a different part of North London. And that didn't have such a bad problem with a fire, but it was also fire damage on the front door. You know, I mean, that's a picture that was taken by somebody, a photographer that we know.
Wow.
That's outside of his house, and so I mean, if you really want to, you can identify it. But the point is that, you know, there's quite a lot of work has obviously gone into these firebomb attacks.
Well, exactly, and that's why I think it's, you know, this is a scare tactic by a sophisticated cell,
Yeah.
which could be linked to Moscow or Iran, and well, they're both one of the same, really, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to know, but I mean, I definitely think that the police need to be a bit more forthcoming, shall we say, with information. Maybe they don't know it themselves yet, but they should certainly at least tell us the nationality of the individual. You know, if he happens to be British, that's fine. If he happens to be Iranian, that's also fine. We just need to know the truth, really.
Well, that's it, and you know, people are very scared. You know, is there a terror cell? Is there somebody going to attack them? People deserve to know.
Yeah. Exactly right, because, you know, as we saw from the stories we did yesterday, there's a lot of dangerous people wandering the streets of Britain. Some of them have been working in the Middle East, some of them have been signed up to ISIS, some of them have been murdering people in the desert out there in Syria and in Turkey and in Iraq, and they're all now back in Britain. We don't know what they're doing.
Well, exactly, and now that Keir's done his Enoch Powell speech, he might be even a bigger target because he's trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
And it's really not, you know, it's quite a scary time to be in Britain because there's so much unrest right now.
Yeah, well, exactly right. And how about this from Tony, who says Enoch Starmer has become a right-wing knuckle dragger. It's hilarious. Well, I mean, he has, hasn't he? I mean, he's now been accused by his own party of echoing the words and the sentiments about immigration of Enoch Powell. It's quite an extraordinary situation. He's suddenly gone from being Mr. Human Rights Lawyer to let's lock them all up and send them all back.
It's unprecedented. So he was paraphrasing Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech and the strangers in their own land.
Yeah.
You know, and it's obvious he doesn't really believe this. He's rattled by Reform's big win in Runcorn and wants to get the Reform voters. But, you know,
he's not going to get them, is he?
Well, I don't think they're that stupid, but maybe they are. Maybe they can see through his cynical ploy to get them. But it's like,
but all the reform voters that I speak to are never going to vote for the two main parties again. One of the reasons reform has been so successful in the last couple of years is because they represent something different. They represent an alternative to the uni party, as they call it. Because let's face it, I mean, the Tories ruined the immigration status of people coming into this country, and the Labour government have just done exactly the same and made it worse.
Well, they're destroyed it, and you can see the discord within the party. Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, has, you know, attacked him. He's, you know, it's actually, it's a backlash.
Yeah.
His backbenchers are, you know, going against him, and that's not very good. He doesn't have his own party on side. Nobody believes that he thinks that, you know, we're an island of strangers because he literally represented these people as a human rights lawyer.
Exactly. Well, he literally physically prevented certain killers and really, really bad people from being deported because he got them literally dragged off planes. As a human rights lawyer and as a politician, he signed his name to all sorts of petitions to keep people in this country, I think at least one of whom ended up killing somebody again after remaining here.
He's a total hypocrite.
Yeah.
And nobody believes him. And, you know, I was warming to him last week after the trade deals with India and America, but now I'm starting to see things a little bit more clearly. And,
yes. Well, this is what happens. Listen, when you talk to me for long enough, Joe, you get a lot of common sense comes on board for you. Thank you very much indeed. One final thought for you. Net zero will not cut electricity bills. This is another problem for Starmer. This is basically a word of Chris O'Shea, Chief Executive of Centrica, British Gas's parent company. He wrote on LinkedIn that the shift to renewable power will not materially reduce UK electricity prices from current levels. They may give price stability and avoid future price spikes based on the international gas market, but they will definitely not reduce the price. So there goes another dream of Miliband's and Starmer's straight into the dust.
And he's also, you know, spent 33,000 on a first class trip to China.
Yeah.
To speak to the Chinese. The Chinese people don't even know who he is. He could have done it on Zoom, but he took 5 aides on a business class flight over to China, stayed in a 5-star luxury hotel, and all paid for by who, Mike?
Yeah, by us, I'm afraid. Unfortunately, yeah.
I hope we had a lovely time.
I hope he did. He didn't even bring us back a souvenir, the swine. Anyway, there we are. Jonah, very nice to see you. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.